Welcome to Fringe Fanatics with Chad Lee and Chris Zane.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We got a quick special one-hitter for you, a little interview with Robert Land of the Houston Sports podcast, basically, the Houston Sports Talk Show podcast. And he's been doing this for quite a long time. We're very excited to get him on the line. We are going to call him right now.
A little bonus action for you tonight.
Bonus episode. Here we go. Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, is this Robert?
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, you got Chris Zane here and Chad Lee from the Fringe Fanatic Sports Podcast. How are you doing, man?
It's been better days. The Nico injury's got me concerned here.
Yeah, I bet it does. That's definitely going to do quite a little bit to that high-flying offense you guys got down there in terms of all the wide receivers. It does look like he is going to be out 4 weeks now with that hamstring, but I did see you guys got a little bit of good injury news as Dameon Pierce was practicing today. It is looking like he may be ready to go this weekend as Joe Mixon is still kind of nicked up. How are you guys feeling about that addition coming back at least?
Unfortunately, Dameon Pierce hasn't looked good since his rookie season, and I don't know what to expect from him because, last year it got to the point with Dameon that he was not even playing, only on special teams by the end of the year. He was third string. He didn't play at all during the preseason, at least for preseason games, or barely played, and we haven't seen him this year, so I have no idea what to expect. Joe Mixon coming back is a really big deal now, and they just keep going week to week to week to week, and Joe Mixon injury now happened 4 weeks ago. I mean, he's missed the last 3 games. This would be the 4th game, so he's somebody that I think would absolutely affect the running game. He showed it the first couple of weeks. But, I don't know when he's coming back. They've been very, they seem very, secretive about the injury.
So there's no news of him coming back or anything?
I have heard nothing, and there was an inference that he might come back against Jacksonville potentially, and then that didn't happen. The last game against the Bills didn't happen, so until he actually is activated on a Sunday, I'm not assuming it's anytime soon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
I understand Dameon Pierce. He had the really great breakout rookie season, but it's been kind of patchwork there with Dare Ungambale and Cam Akers. And Cam Akers has been one of those guys who every year people think he's going to come out and actually do something and then kind of falls flat. So I guess right now they need all the help they can get in that running back room.
Cam Akers is coming off of 2 knee surgeries. So I don't know how much juice he has left. He looked good in the preseason, but you can't really judge a lot of things in the preseason whenever he's running sort of vanilla defenses. Cam hasn't looked like wants to run into a straight line, and he doesn't look like he's real good in this zone read. And I've noticed they're maybe changing a little bit what they're doing offensively on the line and blocking schemes and stuff. Maybe for Akers, but Dary's been all right. It's just, the holes aren't great, so you really need somebody that's a great running back, and Mixon is closer to that than Ogunbowale, but he's done a nice job, and he also does a nice job catching passes out of the backfield. But they got to figure something out from the receiving core, and Nico Collins was incredible, but Tank Dell was hitting deep passes last year and stretching the field and doing some things. And between injuries and the fact that I think Nico was getting all the run, along with Diggs, his catches went down.
Yeah.
So if they can figure out a way to get Nico going, and one of the things that I think has not helped him is Diggs is in the slot, and they've been running Nico on the outside. Well, he's like a 5'6", 5'7" receiver that spent most of his career as a slot guy, and I think this works better in that position than and as an outside guy, as a 1 or 2 on the edge. So yeah, I would say it would help maybe if they move Diggs a little bit more to the outside, but maybe that's where he's best suited right now. And Diggs is so good, and he's been playing good, that maybe they don't want to mess with that. They got to figure out a way to get Tanko going because he's a guy that can stretch things and hit the big plays.
Yeah, last year he was definitely taking the top off of a lot of defenses, and not to talk about fantasy football, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who drafted him this year, me being one of them, who are a little disappointed in his output so far. But yeah, Chad, what do you got? You got something?
Well, let's get into next week. You got at least a little bit of an easy matchup with the New England Patriots, but it is a little dynamic because they are going to be starting Drake May. How do you feel about that? It is kind of a unanimous thing that the Patriots have the worst offensive line in football, and you guys have one of the best pass rushes in football with Hunter and Will Anderson. Do you think that it should be an easy matchup? The over-unders right now at 6.5. Do you think that's pretty, low? Do you think, you guys might go in there and, lay up
on them,
at least like a couple scores on them?
Well, this should be a double-digit win, but there's a couple other games they've had that should have been double-digit wins. Remember, they faced Anthony Richardson, that basically really is, and on all intents and purposes, a rookie because he barely played last year. He went out in the Texans game early in the season, and really that was just about it for him. I think that was the last game he played. And then they faced Caleb with the Bears, and that was Caleb's second game in his career. So, they got to eat up those guys, and they're blitzing those guys more often. Now, they still got it done against, one of the best quarterbacks last week in Josh Allen. Although, I don't know if it's fool's gold. They had some success early in the year, and I'm wondering if, their lack of talent at the wide receiver, and they were missing their key guy last week, it's starting to catch up to them. They're just kind of running out of options. So, the Texans have gotten really lucky and now to face another rookie quarterback, although would have been sure nice to face Jacoby Brissett the way it's worked with him, because nobody's scared of Jacoby Brissett. Nobody's scared of him because, the guy's dead, he's near last or dead last in just about every category. He can't throw the ball down the field. Their offensive line isn't good. So, for the Patriots, Drake May is probably a little bit better option, but against the Texans defense, they're gonna send people, and so we'll see what happens. I'm more interested to see what they can do offensively, because the Patriots have been able to hang into some games just because of their defense, and the Texans have got to start figuring stuff out eventually here, because Nico ain't coming back anytime soon. It's 4 games, but that's at the very least. I mean,
yeah,
I've watched the NFL for a long time and watched sports for a long time, and groins, hamstrings, those soft tissue issues tend to linger.
Yeah, that's so true. The Patriots do have a really good defense, but C.J. Stroud, if the Patriots are going to send some people, for an example, last week against the Bills, he completed 9 of 10 pass attempts against the blitz for 139 yards, 23.4% CPOE, second highest of his career. So seems like when guys blitz him, he handles it very well. Jared Mayo, he likes to send people. He's very aggressive. So I think they might pull back and play a little more too high, cover 2 against him, and make him work those underneath routes.
I don't know how banged up the Texans' O-line is. That's another issue, because last week they were without Titus Howard, their right tackle. The offensive line in general hasn't been good, but the issue has more been on the left side with Kenyon Green and Laramie Tunsil. Tunsil just not playing like a Pro Bowler this year. And he's also been, racking up penalties like Tic Tacs.
Yeah,
so,
he has. But
right now, it's, not practicing is not just Titus, but Tunsil isn't practicing. It might just be he's a veteran. They're going to play it safe with him. I don't know. but then they also have Kenyon Green's not practicing, although maybe I've suggested that maybe his backup would be a better option because really the numbers show him to be terrible. My eye test shows him to be terrible. He was supposed to be good as a run blocker. He really hasn't. His pass blocking is not good. He looks like a first-round bust as a left guard. And they've got Kendrick Green, just about the same name, but he played a game or two last year. Then he got, or they had everybody that they threw at the offensive line practically got. They played 12 different offensive linemen last year. And Kendrick Green played, and then he got hurt. So, but I thought he played well when that game that he played, or at least he played adequately. And I don't even know if I would say Kenyon Green is adequate. So that might be an upgrade. It might be a week just to throw him out there just to see what he can do with the Patriots. But, I think if he's healthy, he's going to go. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen with this offensive line because they're paying a lot of money. They spend a lot of capital, a lot of first-round picks on these guys, first and second. And just it hasn't looked all that good. Shaq Mason at right guard, former Patriot. Hopefully, he's up for this game, but I would suspect he might get released and they might draft somebody because he's been, above average, but I don't know if he's been worth the money that they're paying him. But yeah, the Texans' offensive line is the thing that I think if you ask the fans around here what they're worried about most, obviously getting Nico back's now a big deal, but the biggest worry, I think, is that offensive line.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense, and it's a bummer they've spent all that money and they're not getting the output that they would like from it. But injuries, they run rampant, especially on the offensive line in the middle of the season. That's not the only one. Their did not participate list today was quite long for a Wednesday. You got safety Jimmy Ward and wide receiver Robert Woods as well. But I don't think that's really going to matter against the Patriots. The Patriots are definitely not looking good this year. So I think you guys are going to, like you said, win this one by a couple touchdowns at least, hopefully.
The AFC is, it's been a little bit more watered down than I thought. So, if you're a Texan fan, you got to be happy about where you are and that you are getting the wins. That there are 28 other teams that wish they had 4 wins or more. And so if the Texans can somehow get things going by the end of the year and get some of these guys back. Remember Christian Harris, who was really coming on his second year last year at linebacker, and he was a game changer, a playmaker at linebacker. He hasn't played this year at all. He's eligible to come off the injured list, but he's been eligible for a couple of weeks and he hasn't come off, and they don't even have him out there doing anything yet, really. So it's just, that's a guy that can do something. Autry, they picked up in the offseason, Danico Autry. He had the 6-game drug suspension to start the season, so he should be coming back, not this week, but next week. And then that's a guy that can get some sacks, and he can help, especially on the interior with their pass rush on the interior and longer down situations, and I think that's how they were going to use him. So a couple of guys that can help you out, and then obviously Joe Mixon and Nico Collins, like we've been talking about, those guys. So that's a lot of real key guys that they could use back. But it's the NFL. I'm not complaining. I mean, this is what happens every year. You lose key guys, other guys have to step up.
Yep.
Is there I guess the pulse of the Houston fan base? Are they a little, I guess, bummed with how this season, after rocketing to what they did last year with the rookie quarterback, and then this year they still are 4-1, but it does kind of feel like it's not the same as last year. Is there a little bit of I don't know, I guess worry, or is everybody just kind of like, hey, it's going to happen. It's the beginning of the year. We're still kind of figuring stuff out.
I'm disappointed because there's been more whining than I thought for a team that is figuring out ways to win. You watch the NFL, it's not like you go blow out teams. Even the best teams don't do that on a weekly basis. We see the Chiefs, they're doing the same thing, just edging out team after team after team, and that's what you got to do sometimes. And the fan base is a little bit, everybody's upset, or they feel like it's not what they expected or whatever. But the thing is, you got C.J. Stroud, and as long as he's healthy, you're in really great shape, because when it comes to the end of the game, the Texans are fantastic thanks to C.J. Stroud. He's 10-1 in his last one-score games.
Wow.
Amazing for a guy that's in his second year in the NFL.
Yeah, that is a crazy stat.
That just goes to show how good he is under pressure. I know I don't have it there in front of me, but I've seen his third down rates too. He's really good on third downs, and that stat right there alone, when it comes down to it on a one-score game, he's going to deliver. And that pass that he did have to Nico Collins, even though it was kind of bittersweet that he got hurt on that was unreal. And for his confidence just afterwards, right after he released it, and just turn and fold his arms, like you got to love to see that. The guy, he's cocky, and sometimes that's what you need. You need a guy with some swagger.
He's just pinpoint accurate. It's so rare to see the interceptions. He's thrown a couple of them this year, but the one last week, great play by the Bills defensive player. He had a fumble, but that one, D'Amico explained after the game in an interview. He said that what happened was a receiver ran the wrong route. So CJ was supposed to immediately throw the ball, and he had to hold on to it because the receiver wasn't where he was supposed to be. And then Blake Fisher, who, was playing instead of Titus Howard at right tackle, and the rookie first start of the year, just got bulldozed right into the CJ, and his guy stripped the ball out of CJ's hand. So a couple of things that just CJ didn't have a whole lot of control over. I mean, you could blame CJ if you want, but I mean, considering how good he is in the pocket, how much his radar, his ability to get out of situations, and I mean, if you watch every single Texan snap and some of the stuff he's been able to get out of, make throws on the run, sense where the pressures, all that stuff. It's just the guy's extraordinary. And I've been a Houston sports fan, a Houston NFL fan since the Oilers back in the mid to late 70s, since Love You Blue.
That's cool,
I've
man.
seen not a lot of good quarterbacks over that time. Dan Pastorini was the guy that helped Love You Blue go to a couple of AFC championship games. The last time a Houston NFL team appeared in the AFC championship game, which is now 45 years ago. But, Dan Pastorini was not tremendously accurate. If you look at the numbers, and the numbers are very different these days than they are now, because the way offenses work and, how they look at things, his numbers are not good, more interceptions than touchdowns. But he played for a lot of just garbage teams too. And then it took from there to Warren Moon, and then Warren Moon wasn't doing things in the clutch the way that we see C.J. Stroud. And then since Warren Moon, outside of a year or two of Deshaun Watson, rest in peace, Deshaun Watson, besides a year or two of him, it's been pretty bad quarterback play. I mean, Schaub was basically a Kubiak system guy.
Yep.
And then he just fell off the map. All of a sudden, he started throwing pick six. But, he was just basically a guy that, had Andre Johnson and Owen Daniels and had this really brilliantly designed offense. But when push came to shove late in games, he would screw things up more often than not. So to have a guy that makes these big plays at the end of games, unlike Schaub and unlike Warren Moon did a lot of times, especially playoffs and stuff like that, I just feel lucky. And every week you sit there and you pray that this guy stays upright and he doesn't get hurt, because, as long as you got him, you feel like, hey, we can win 3 or 4 games in the playoffs and win the whole thing. Why not?
Yeah. Hey, once you get to the playoffs, man, it's basically any given week, any given Sunday for real in the playoffs. All it takes is one game to keep moving on. And I could definitely see them if they can keep pulling this out and stick with it. Like you said, as long as you've got C.J. Stroud, I think they've got a chance if they make it into the playoffs for sure. But they've got the Chiefs there as well, so that's the only hiccup, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the Texans, there's a lot of complaints from the fans about Bobby Sloak, the offensive coordinator. And you look at the numbers, they're 6th in the NFL in yardage. They're doing this with mostly the 3rd and 4th string running backs for the last few weeks. They got more penalties than any team in the NFL. They got more penalty yardage than any team in the NFL.
A lot of that's due to Laramie Tunsil, too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he's up to 11. There's a couple of them that actually didn't count because of declined penalties. But yeah, they're
Offsetting.
leading in penalties, penalty yardage, and I think it's illegal procedures, false starts. They call it false starts. But yeah, they're leading in all three of those categories. And the offensive line, I mean, I don't know what Bobby Slowick's supposed to do about this, because last year he was the offensive coordinator and this wasn't happening all the time. But with Laremy Tunsil, this has been the story of his career. He does that a lot. I think he's trying to go out early so he doesn't give up the sacks. It looks good when he's trying to run his new contract through the front office. But, it's just like this is an issue with him, and the Texans have gone through, whatever it's been like. I think 4 coaches with him now, 4 head coaches, and it's the same issue through Bill O'Brien, Lovie Smith, David Culley, D'Amico Ryans. You can't stop him from doing this stuff, it seems like. And he's got, Laremy Tunsil has nobody he's got to listen to, because the money's guaranteed. It's guaranteed this year. It's guaranteed next year. They lose $25 million if they let him go this year. $25 million if they let him go next year.
Yeah,
so,
I think he's
he just does whatever he wants.
Yeah, he's making just under Trent Williams, right, for highest paid tackles.
Probably that sounds right. And it's not just that he's high paid. It's like that money got, it's a signing bonus. There's guaranteed, or it counts against the cap, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the issue. And they also spent a lot of money on Titus Howard, who really, he's been a slightly above average right tackle. There was a chance that he could be better than that. He was he's a first round pick. There's a chance he could be better than that, but it seems like he's always injured, and they've had to move him around at times because of other issues on the offensive line. So, I don't know if he's worth it. I mean, he's good. I don't think he's great. And, they're paying him more closer to great than good. But right now, we'll take good. I mean, with the rest of the offensive line, we'll take good. Just got to, again, he's right now questionable for this Sunday. So hopefully he can come back soon. But, yeah, I mean, that's, again, it always keeps coming back to the offensive line. It's the same story.
Yep. Well, definitely that's, where, teams are built. You gotta, it's in the trenches. Yeah. But, I do respect that you are a longtime Houston sports writer and covering Houston sports. We don't really have, we come from Denver, and we have basically one correspondent for the Nuggets, but we don't really have anybody else for any other NBA teams. I see that you cover the Rockets pretty deeply. Do you mind if we shift gears real quick? I just want to ask before we let you go, how do you feel about the Rockets' upcoming season?
Yeah, I cover with my Houston Sports Talk podcast, which, by the way, I just started my 12th year. It's
Nice.
The longest running podcast in all of Houston sports.
Congratulations.
Whether it's just Rockets, Texans, Astros, whatever.
That's awesome.
It's the longest run, over 1,500 episodes now. But
Wow.
yeah, the Rockets are they're going to be really good, and they're super exciting. And they've got 7 guys that you could talk about and just be super excited about. They've had 7 first-round picks in the last 4 years, and it looks like they've hit a little bit or a lot on all those guys. And Jalen Green, if he gets it together, if he turns a corner this year, the Rockets can win 50-plus games. I mean, they're that good. Şengün gets better every single year. He looks like he's gotten rid of a lot of fat, and he's added a lot of muscle, and he's getting stronger, and the guy just comes up with new stuff every year. He's going to be an all-star soon. And then you look at the young guys, and you got Amen Thompson that already looks like he's destined this year or next year to be a all-NBA defensive player, like a first, second team guy. He's that good. He's extraordinary defensive. He was incredible last year, his rookie season. And then, you have another guy in Cam Whitmore that everybody just, for whatever reason, he fell in the draft. There's a lot of teams that are going to regret that, because this guy is about as talented as anybody in the NBA. You watch his highlights, the dunks are incredible, but he shoots threes, and he's about as physically talented, like speed and power and jumping ability, as anybody around. And that's a guy that he's coming off the bench, and there might be nights where he only gets 15 or 20 minutes because this team is so deep. And then they've got the veterans like Dylan Brooks and Van Vliet, which he was fantastic last year. He's sort of their silent MVP. He sort of ran everything, kept it all together. And they're also bringing in Steven Adams, who was hurt last year, and they picked him up from Memphis. And Steven Adams, you know, he sets screens that just get guys wide open. And they've got shooters that if you get them a little bit of space, and Jalen starts shooting a little bit better, which he's been working on, but definitely Reed Shepherd, the rookie, is, you know, he's going to be outstanding as a shooter, and Fred Van Vliet. These guys are going to be wide open thanks to Steven Adams and then his rebounding and defense. And, you know, he's a bench guy. All they need from him is 15, 20 minutes a game typically. So they are super deep, probably the deepest team in the NBA, along with maybe OKC. And, you know, they're a team that I think can withstand a couple of injuries, which there's a lot of teams in the NBA that just can't. I think the Rockets are going to be, at worst, a little bit better than that 41 wins from last year. And if everything breaks right for them, they could be in the 50s easily.
Wow, yeah. I definitely think that Steven Adams' addition is going to do well for them. When he went down from Memphis last year, that was a big hit to them, just as a locker room presence alone, not to mention what he does on the court. I do feel like he's one of those glue guys for a team. But, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, Memphis, just you mentioned Memphis, and I'm going to zag where everybody else was zigged on Memphis. A lot of people are talking, they could be a top 6 seed, maybe even could be a top 3 this year with Ja Morant coming back. I see them not doing anywhere close to
I agree.
what everybody has them.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're a team that just has already got a mountain of injury problems, and they're not deep anymore. Losing Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams and Tyus Jones mattered to them. And when you look at the guys that they have, there are a lot of injury-prone guys. They've had it in the past, and injured guys tend to get injured again. And Ja Morant gets injured every year. And I think when he goes down, it's bad. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he can't. He's got to stay off Instagram, that's for sure. But no, I love the optimism behind it. I was a big fan of Ime Udoka when he was in Boston, and the fact that Houston gave him a second chance, I think, is great. And we saw the turnaround that he already did quickly in Houston. And you guys got Fred VanVleet. I'm a big fan of his because he comes from Wichita State. Shocker. And what's cool too is, you got Jalen Green. I mean, you guys are a dark horse. A lot of people forget about how well Houston kind of went on the run late in the year last year. So I think there's a good chance they're going to continue that, especially when you got Jason Momoa's little brother and Steven Adams setting picks over there.
Yeah, one of the things that went under the radar for this national media, I think, thinks that the Rockets are going to come down to earth because they won more than they should have last year or something like that. What they don't understand is they've added Steven Adams. You know, he was injured last year. He didn't play. That's an addition that they did not have. They've also lost. They also lost last year between Şengün, Ahmed Thompson, Cam Whitmore, and Tari Eason. They lost almost 140 games. So even though they were a young team, they lost guys. And these weren't, I don't think these are like recurring injury issues. Tari's thing, he had like a surgery for it, and it's not like an ACL or an anterior cruciate. You know, it's not one of these knee or leg injuries that should come back. It was more like there was a mass or something like that, and that's supposed to be gone and gotten rid of. And then if you look at the other injuries, Şengün's the only one that maybe comes back. But Ahmed, it was just a little bit of a twisted ankle early in the year, and he was out for illness. Cam Whitmore, I don't think that's anything serious. So when you look at all the games they lost from injuries last year, and then you throw in the fact that they've added Steven Adams and a Reed Shepherd, and then, you know, like these guys are going to get better. They think, it's a young team, they can't repeat this. No, these guys are going to get better. Young guys get better, and you talk about Udoka, just an incredible job developing guys, and that's what's been so great about watching what he's been able to do. It reminds me of what the Astros did in development, what we've seen the Texans do since D'Amico's taken over, guys that you thought might be lost causes, or maybe this guy's a bust. And then D'Amico spreads a little dust on him, and all of a sudden, the guy starts figuring things out, knows how to put guys in the right position, knows what their strengths are, and works on these little things, the details. And Udoka, he's a master at that. Has great coaching, like his whole coaching staff. They do a great job.
Definitely, yeah. Good coaching goes a long way, and it's something that I feel like is lacking a lot these days. So it's nice to see when it happens. We don't want to keep you too much longer. I mean, we've had you on now for like 25 minutes. We do greatly appreciate your time. Do you want to give a rundown of where we can find you, or people can find you online? It's
plug all your stuff.
Yeah, the podcast Houston Sports Talk is. The audio you can find in all the typical places: Spotify, Apple, iHeart. The show also is on YouTube. It's on Houston Sports Talk. You type in Houston Sports Talk and Robert Land and my name, and you'll find that. But it's Houston Sports Talk on YouTube. And if you need to find that link, you can also go to my X, which is at HST Podcast. HST as in Houston Sports Talk. At HST Podcast. And we have incredible guests. In fact, I'll just plug this, and I don't think you have to be a Houston fan. I just think you have to like basketball and like sports. Miran Fader from The Ringer, who is a New York Times bestselling author. She wrote a biography on Giannis a few years ago. She has just finished an Hakeem Olajuwon biography. I just had her on my show a few days ago. And Hakeem is somebody that a lot of people know about the player, but they don't know about the person. So it's worth going to listen to my conversation with her that I had on Monday. And that book is released next week. And I can tell you, I've read it cover to cover in 2 days. It's 340 pages. And it was fantastic. And she did an incredible job. And I'm somebody that, I followed Hakeem from the time I was 10 years old when he was at Phi Sigma Gamma Houston Cougar, all the way to when I was 30. So I watched this guy, loved him, adored him for 20 years. And there's a ton of this stuff in the book that I did not know about him personally. And what's also nice is she got it right. You're looking a little bit harder as a Houston fan because you know what's correct and what isn't, and what part of the story is right or wrong. And she gets so much of it right. Really cool thing too is several of the people that are in the book that she quotes and she talks to are people that have been on Houston Sports Talk. So
that's awesome.
That was kind of cool. And one of my good friends who covered the Rockets for the Houston Post, he was the Rockets beat writer from 80 to 95, and he wrote a Rudy T biography as well. He is in the book, and he's somebody that knows Hakeem backwards and forwards, and knows the Rockets backwards and forwards from his days doing that. So I connected him with her, and he got in the book, which I was glad to see because just one of the best people that you'll ever meet, and he did an incredible job those years covering the Rockets, and I talked to him pretty frequently, and he loves Houston. He loves that time. He loved covering the Rockets, and actually he was in town just the other day, and I got a chance to meet up with him. Got a chance to have dinner with him and Rudy Tomjanovich, which was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. And then hopefully, I mean, I know you're a busy guy, but maybe in the middle of the season or sometime in the season, we can have you hop on and talk some Houston Rockets once the basketball season gets going.
Would love it. As soon as we get off this call, I got a preseason Rockets game to catch. It's about to start in 10 minutes. They're facing the Thunder, and that's going to be a fun little rivalry.
Oh, yeah,
that is good. They're supposed to be really good this year.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's a team that I think the only team that I would say is built for the future as good as the Rockets or better. Obviously, they have SGA right now, and he's already there. We're trying to get somebody to the SGA level, but I think the rest of our roster matches up with the rest of their roster in a lot of ways.
They really do, yeah. Well, Robert, we greatly appreciate your time. We'll let you get to that preseason game. I'm sure you got to watch that pretty intently, but we thank you again for hopping on with us.
Yes, thank you, Robert.
Yeah, great talking to you guys. Have a great one.
You do the same, man. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, man.